Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taormina.
Welcome to OAA Now here on Sammy Taormina, blog around the OAA, the host of Last Brain Cells, host between communities and ordinary television. Like to welcome those watching on the local voice on SoundCloud and those watching ordinary television. A lot to talk about here this week here on the podcast, of course. Postseason starting, getting really close to it. We're going to preview that this week. On this week's edition, we're going to look at each matchup and who I think might have the best chance to get to the Breslin Center on the boys' side. So, without further ado, let's talk about the boys here. Let's start with the districts. I mean, the MHSAA released them on Sunday. I've been giving a lot of notice with the districts for the last few months. I mean, like even during the fish drive. And now the matchups are now official. So here are the matchups. We're going to start with District 62. This will be over at Goodrich. We're going to go, we had the 5-seed Linden Eagles taking on the 4-seed Lake Fenton Blue Devils. That winner's taking on the top seed in the district, the Goodrich Martians. And then you have the Ortonville Brandon Blackhawks, who's the 6th seed, taking on the Fighting Irish Pontiac Notre Dame Prep. And that winner takes on the Pontiac Phoenix. So you look at this district and you think about, okay, this is a district where Goodrich has to be favored because of, obviously, the legendary coach Gary Barnes. You have to look at the favorite you have to look at everything going on with in this district, and you think about it. Pontiac's had a really nice year. I mean, they've had a really, really good year. So you think about, okay, Goodrich, we know, has been a powerhouse for a long time. We know they've been a consistent power for a long time. We know that they've had deep postseason runs for a long time. Pontiac is that new team on the block. First-year coach, former Michigan great, Deion Harris. They have a ton of freshmen on that roster. 3 of them already made impacts already. You have a proven, experienced player in JJ Claudio. Pontiac's basically saying, look, if you are in our way, we're going to have to beat you. Now, Pontiac's going to have a challenge in their plate in the second round. They're going to likely have to see Pontiac Notre Dame Prep. Now, Notre Dame Prep's been really good all year long. They've been very good all year long. But you look at this situation, and Notre Dame Prep's been a team that, they've struggled early, new coaching staff, but after the Detroit Loyola game, they've won 7 of the last 8. So they've been on a roll, gaining a lot of confidence. They've got some good wins on the way. Notre Dame Prep last year knocked out Pontiac in the district final. But this is a different team that they've been in years past. So, you kind of think about it. They should get by Brandon. And whoever wins gets Pontiac. And we know Pontiac is kind of that new kid on the block thing. They're kind of like that. And it would not surprise me if Pontiac knocks off Notre Dame Prep and they go and play Goodrich in district final. And I really like Pontiac in this district. Yes, it's at Goodrich. Yes, Goodrich, they're going to have to deal with either Linden or Lake Fenton. I think they can beat both teams. They've already beaten Lake Fenton twice. So you kind of think about, that direction is you have to really think about with them is, can you put in a district to where Lake Fenton and Goodrich, they played twice already. And, you think about it, Goodrich beaten twice. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting. We'll see what happens. But I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how that district goes, and we'll see what happens. So let's now look at District 60. This is going to be at Harper Woods Chandler Park. You got Detroit East English Village Prep taking on Harper Woods. That winner taking on Detroit Denby Tech. Then you have St. Clair Shores Salt Lake taking on East Point. That winner's taking on Harper Woods Chandler Park. This could be an interesting district. Could be. Harper Woods definitely is going to have a long road. I mean, they're going to have, if they win against East English, what they should, then they're going to have to play East Point. No, they're going to play Detroit with Denby Tech, which, that's a difficult matchup. So, you think about that matchup, and you think about how that's going to approach. Detroit Denby's having a very nice year. They're really having a very nice year. So, you think about that scenario. You think about that matchup for Harper Woods. It's going to be tough for Coach Tawan Porter because that matchup is going to be extremely difficult. Do I think could Harper Woods win that matchup? Absolutely. But it's not going to be easy. Then on the other side, you have St. Clair Shores Salt Lake taking on East Point. East Point's been red hot lately. They've been red hot. So, on the other side, Harper Woods Chandler Park's having a nice year. So, but it's always hard to beat a team 3 times. It always is. So, maybe East Point has to be on upset alert. I know Chandler Park has to be. I mean, Harper Woods Chandler Park's having a nice year. They're having a real nice year. So, you're thinking about is you look at that matchup, you look at the situation, and you have to say Denby Tech's the favorite. You got to say Detroit Denby's favorite. But Harper Woods has a chance, I think, to knock him off. I also think Chandler Park, being the host team, they have a chance. I mean, East Point, maybe. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But for Harper Woods, it's going to be a tall task. It's going to be a long road for them. So we'll see. We're going to see what happens. Then we go to District 58. This is going to be over at Detroit Old Redford Academy. Of course, all this we're talking about right now, these are all in Division 2. So, we're not to Division 1 yet. And that's going to be very, very interesting. But we have Detroit Chandler Old Academy, who's not won a game all year, taking on Detroit Lincoln King. That winner's taking on Ferndale. And then I guess I got Ferndale University with Detroit Old Redford Academy, with that winner taking on Hazel Park. So, you look at Ferndale's path. You look at, of course, is Ferndale a Division II state championship built team? There are a lot of questions for Coach Ron Rickman and his team. There is a lot of questions. So you think about with them, It's going to be very interesting because you look at Ferndale. You look at all. Do they have the talent to make another run? Because there's been games where Ferndale has gotten absolutely devoured. I mean, look at the Avondale game. You look at, of course, what happened to them on the west side of the state when they were just completely obliterated by Grand Rapids. It was Grand Rapids either. Got to figure out, was it West Catholic or Catholic Central? I got to figure that one out. But they were just completely obliterated there. I mean, they lost 80-56. I got to question Coach Juan Rickman's methods. I have to question him because you can have the NPR as it is. You can play a lot of it, but I question why you're playing a lot of these showcase games. So, in Juan Rickman's case, realignment's going to be very important. I mean, I know he loves showcase games. He loves playing in them. You got to look at, there's another component that I get concerned of with Ferndale, and that is called program strengths. I am very concerned about that area. But, you know, if you want to play a lot of the showcase games, that's fine. But just telling you, I know your freshman team struggled this year, but your JV team was pretty good. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. Because you look at Ferndale, they have the makings of a D2 state championship team. You got a player in Ed Vineyard who's had a really nice year. Toronto Adams has been a solid shooter. They got others as well who can play as well. But the question that I have is going to be can I trust this team, especially against the West Side? Because Ferndale has not looked good against West Side teams at all this year. They have not looked very good. And obviously, I know it's a lot of showcases because of Ed Vineyard. But you know he graduates next year. I know he's got a younger brother who's on the MJV team who's been very good. So I'll be curious to see if both Vineyard brothers play senior year, next year. See how that does. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. And then, so in the district, I just don't really see Ferndale getting tested in the semis by Detroit Jalen Rose or Detroit Lincoln King Academy. I don't really see that. And then you look at the other side and you say, okay, Detroit Old Redford is supposed to be Ferndale's biggest threat. But they've not been very good. They've been struggling. Hazel Park jumped them for the number 2 seed. That's credit of Coach Josh Nix, what he's done over there with that program. But could you imagine if Ferndale University upsets Detroit Old Redford and then has to play Hazel Park? That sets up an interesting storyline. Because now you have to play. Could you imagine Josh Nix against his old school? That would be insane. That would be just insane. And it could happen. It could happen. That would be that would be very, very interesting. If that matchup were to set up to be between Ferndale University and Warren Lincoln King, and Hazel Park. Coach Josh Nix going up against his former team. That would be insane. That would be absolutely insane. Then you look at does Ferndale University have a chance to maybe get to the district final? I think they do. I think they got a shot. But they're going to have to play well. And I know this year it's been a struggle. It's been a very rough year for them. But they can put up points. They can score. But you look at the transition period, they've gone through a transition period which has to happen, even with the new coach, it has to happen during the year. So Ferndale University's going through that. Do I think they have a chance to get to the district final? Absolutely. But they're going to have to get by. They're going to have to get by some teams. I mean, they're going to have to get by Detroit Old Redford. Then they're going to have to get by Hazel Park. They're going to have to get by them. Bottom line. We'll see what happens. We're going to see what happens. So, when you look at that district, you have to say Ferndale's the favorite. Overwhelmingly. The only team that I could see maybe giving them problems is Detroit Old Redford. I think a lot of that's Drew Wilson. But I don't know if he's had injuries or he's been struggling. I don't know. So that's probably the only team I would say right now would give Ferndale a lot of problems. Would be Detroit Old Redford. But even still, they're going to have to play on that Monday. They're still going to have to play on that Monday. So we'll see how that goes. See how that one goes. Now let's go to Division 1. We're going to start off with District 29. This is going to be over at Athens. You have Warren Mott, who's a 5 seed, taking on Royal Oak. That winner's taking on the top seed Blooming Hills, Cranbrook, Kingswood. And then you have Troy Athens, round 3. So, I'm looking at this district. And if there's a team that got the benefit of the doubt here, this is Royal Oak. Royal Oak got the benefit of the draw here. Now, yes, they're having a really rough year. They're struggling. And I think a lot of that, you look at what Royal Oak is, who's the Robin to CJ Harrison. I know how talented and good CJ Harrison is. The problem is everybody else knows. So they're basically putting their best defender on Harrison and daring everybody else to beat him. So that's what's going on here. Teams are doing that to him. And that's why Royal Oak is struggling. Because Harrison's going to get everybody's attention. So then your secondary scoring has to step up. Your secondary scoring has to step up. So, you think about it, you have to really, if you're Coach Aaron Smith, you have to find secondary scoring. You have the pieces. You just got to go and deliver. Now, why I say Royal Oak's got the best seed here is because I think they can go and knock off Warren Mott. And then Blueberry Hills, Cranbrook, Kingswood, they're not the greatest. They're not world beaters. They really aren't. So you think about that, and you look at what Royal Oak's motivation is last year. They want to get back to a district final. They want to win a district. Now, the path is difficult? Yes, because you're going to have to play 3 games in this district because you're the 4 seed. Then you got to get by Cranbrook Kingswood if you win. And if you win that, you're looking at either Troy or Troy Athens, and both those teams have had their number this year. I mean, for Royal Oak, their pass, I like their pass, but it's an interesting path. Because they're going to have to play 3 games if they want to win the district. Whereas Troy and Troy Athens will have to play 2. Troy and Troy Athens is a very, very interesting game. Because this year, Athens went into Troy and won. And then when Troy went to Athens, they won. So both teams have won games at the opposing team's home court. So it sets up an interesting game. Really does. So you really think about is with Troy. I know they've been I've been impressed with them. I don't know if I would say they've overachieved. I mean, considering it was going to be a rough year for them to start. But I really think Troy's really overachieved this year. They played good basketball. They're better than what their record indicates. And Coach Gary Fralick has that team believing. They got good players. They got very good players. You look at program strength-wise for Troy. I mean, their freshman program is solid. Their JV program has always been solid. So, program strength is not a concern for Coach Gary Fralick. You look at this team, and Troy, let's not forget, came back against Athens and knocked them off. So we know what Troy's more than capable of. Then on the flip side with Athens, I don't know what's going on with Athens. I really don't know. I mean, they got out to a hot start. I know they beat Lake Orion earlier in the year, but they have not been the same team since. They've not been the same team. So I'm wondering what's going on with Athens. I mean, I'm thinking that. What's going on with Athens? So you got to think about with them is Athens. I know they're a hard team to figure out. I can't figure them out. I mean, there's games that look very good, and then there's games that go okay, what's going on here? I mean, they've had some games where they've had some weird losses, really weird losses. But they've also had some big wins. I just don't know what Troy Athens is. I really don't. Troy, I got a hint. Troy Athens, I don't know. I mean, I know everything starts and ends with Alan Sposh. I mean, it starts and ends with him. So, curious to see how this one goes. Because you know that place is going to be packed. You know that the Troy students are going to be put up top. And so, it's going to be an interesting atmosphere for that second game. It's going to be very interesting. So, it's going to be interesting. See how it goes. So, you look at this district. Who do you like in this district? Who do I like in this district? I think Troy Athens round 3 is going to be it's going to be tight. It's going to be close. It might come down to the last possession. But I really like Royal Oaks pass. I really like Royal Oaks pass. Because if they can get their secondary scoring figured out, they can make a run at this thing. But that's going to be the key. That's going to be the key. So, we'll see what happens. But that's going to be a very interesting district. Then let's go to District 22. This will be over at Livonia Stevenson. You got North Farmington, who is the 5 seed this year, taking on the 4 seed Livonia Stevenson Spartans. That winner's taking on the top seed Redford Thurston. Then the other side, you got Livonia Churchill taking on 3 seed Farmington. And that winner's taking on the 2nd seed Livonia Franklin Patriots. So, you think about this district. You kind of got to look at history from last year. Farmington had to win 3 games to win their district. They upset North Farmington in the semis. Then they had to knock off Livonia Stevenson. So you think about with this district. You gotta like where both Farmington schools are at. I think Farmington's got a better path than North Farmington. Farmington, they're going to beat Livonia Churchill. I think they're going to knock off Livonia Franklin. I think they played a more tougher schedule than the Patriots. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. Really interesting. And then you look at the district final. Could a Farmington final happen? Could North Farmington round 3? Could that happen? Absolutely could happen. So now you look at the top seed. You look at Redford Thurston. They're having a great year. They're having a really good year. I think they're in that conversation for the Downriver Championship. Now you look at North Farmington. This is a program that's had a history this season of blowing fourth quarter leads. They blew one against Abnell. They blew one against Farmington. They blew one against them there. And then they blew one against Ann Arbor Skyline. I will never forget that one. They had a 13-point lead heading the fourth quarter in that game. They've had some just bad losses, especially in the fourth quarter. When you're a team that has that's a problem. And then they held on to a lead against River Rouge and won that game. So, think about that one for North Farmington. If you could win at least 4 of those games that you had at least in the fourth quarter, you're probably not a 5 seed. But now you got to take on the host school, Livonia Stevenson, a team that does shoot a lot of threes in their home gym. That's very dangerous. That's why I'm saying Farmington's path is much easier than North Farmington's. Because of the path. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. It's going to be interesting. But you look at that district, yes, I think there's 4 teams that have a chance to win the district. Maybe 5. The only team that I don't think has a chance is probably going to be Livonia Churchill. They've had a rough year. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Next, let's go to District 23. This is going to be over at Detroit, over at Hamtramck. This is where Oak Park's in. They're the 5 seed. They play Detroit Mumpers in the first round. Then that winner takes on Warren Fitzgerald. And then you have UD Jesuit taking on Hamtramck. The winner playing Detroit Renaissance. So, Troy Mumford had to forfeit some games, I know, because they had an ineligible player. I can only imagine that bottom half of that bracket. Oh boy. Oh boy. You got UD Jesuits who's had a really rough year. Taking on the Hamtramck Cosmos. Hamtramck's a very good team. And then that winner's taking on Detroit Renaissance. Rennie and Hamtramck, both teams have been pretty even. Pretty even. UAD has had a rough year, but this is still UAD Jesuits. It's still the Cubs. That could be a whoever gets out of that and gets in district final, gonna have to earn it. Other side of the bracket, that's where Oak Park is. This is where Warren Fitzgerald, I think, benefits. But it's still a dangerous matchup when you play Oak Park. When you play Oak Park's had a nice year in the gold. I mean, they've found an identity on the defensive side. They've scored enough points. Coach Duran Shepard's been a very good coach this year. So now I take on a Troy Mumford team. It's going to be tough. But are they beatable? Absolutely, they're beatable. They can be beat. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. That winner takes on Warren Fitzgerald. We'll see how that one goes. But I think it'll be a really good game. It'll be really interesting. Next district we're going to talk about is District 24. It's the A&T. Groves takes on A&T. That winner takes on Birmingham Brother Ice. Then you have Berkeley takes on Seaholm. That winner takes on Bloomfield Hills. I watched the Prep Sports podcast, the broadcast. I watched their YouTube feed. I watch it. And there are times that I just get a little annoyed when they talk about the Catholic League, when they talk about CC, they talk about De La Salle, they talk about Brother Ice, they talk about, they talk about St. Mary's, this and that. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, you have a team in Bloomfield Hills who has been quietly under the radar all year long. Now, I know in the OAA, we talk about, Bloomfield Hills, they get, they're getting a lot of praise. I'm just talking throughout the state. Bloomfield Hills, I just don't think in the state is getting respected. I just don't think that. And I think a lot of that is, the fact you look at the district, you have Birmingham Brother Rice is in there. But you look at Bloomfield Hills and say, okay, Bloomfield Hills has got Deron Mason, the Wayne State commit. You have Carter Canfield just came back. He's been on a tear. Mason Hitchcock's been very good. They got others. They got Brandon Byes has been pretty good. So, here's the thing that would make things really interesting. You look at if Birmingham Brother Rice played Bloomfield Hills in district final, and I'm telling you, I think Birmingham Brother Rice, they got a good freshman. You got Greg Grays. But Coach Ricky Palmer's team screams to me upset. You look at the games that Birmingham Brother Rice has had. They lost to Novi Detroit Catholic Central in the Catholic League quarterfinals. Then they had to survive Stony Creek. Stony Creek put 67 on them. So, and that Stony Creek team, yes, they're a good team. But you're Birmingham Brother Rice. You're supposed to beat these teams by like 15 or 20 points. I mean, you recruit. You recruit and all that. I mean, like, you look at Birmingham Brother Rice and you say to yourself, okay, I mean, what is going on here? I mean, I know you have the talent to turn it up. You have the depth to turn it up. You're going to be deep. But to me, you're on upset alert. And that's in the district final. I'm telling you, if Bloomfield Hills is on, I would not be surprised if they beat them. I would not be surprised if they beat them. And then you look at the possible district semifinal match for Bloomfield Hills. Seaholm? Seaholm's been on a tear. They've been red hot, playing really good basketball. Had a state win against arch rival Groves not too long ago. They knocked off Linden. Spencer Adams has that team believing. He does. And they just beat Troy the other night. Troy's a heck of a team. Heck of a program. You gotta like what Coach Spencer Adams is doing over there. I mean, Everett Wirtz has been playing good. They've got playmakers. They can defend. They got length. I mean, the brand of basketball that they're playing over there at Seaholm, that's a winning brand. They should have no issue with Berkeley. I know the coaching matchup's interesting. But I just think that Seaholm is going to be a little bit too much for Berkeley in the first round. Then you have Groves A&T in the first round. That could be very interesting. And Groves has played in the red. They've been battle tested. A&T, of course, in the gold. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. But you think about that matchup, and to think about it, and A&T has home court. So that's another thing that's against Groves. Home court, where A&T's playing right now, they're clicking. But as I mentioned, the winner of that plays Birmingham Brother Rice, which is going to be tough. I mean, if A&T has to play Rice, if they were to get by Groves and A&T plays Rice, that could be an interesting environment. Now, Birmingham Brother Rice, they certainly have the talent. But you think about it, it's going to be very interesting to see how that one goes. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. Because, you know, I mean, like, if Birmingham Brother Rice hypothetically gets upset by A&T, that would be the biggest upset in the state. Would be. But I see Birmingham Brother Rice getting the district final. Bloomfield Hills and Seaholm, that could be a fun one. You know, I think Bloomfield Hills from a talent-wise should win this game. I think Seaholm's length will give them problems. Despite that, Seaholm Bloomfield Hills beaten Seaholm twice this year. But it's always hard to beat a team 3 times. It always is. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that one. That is a district to watch over at Southfield. Next, let's go to District 26. This will be at West Bloomfield. We got Lakeland taking on West Bloomfield. Lakeland's a 5 seed. West Bloomfield's a 4 seed. That one's taking on Walled Lake Northern. And then Walled Lake Central, the 3 seed, takes on Orchard Lake St. Mary's. you know, for Wall Lake Central, I feel bad for them. I mean, they were leading Lakes Valley for a little while, and then they went on a losing streak. Ended up getting caught. South Line East ended up winning the Lakes Valley Conference. Wall Lake Central really struggling this year. Wall Lake Northern took the number 1 seed from them. And then Orchard Lake St. Mary's passed them. And I knew this was coming. I was telling people about this district, watch out for St. Mary's. And look what happened. For West Bloomfield, the injury to Curtis Britton, that's a big, big deal. Britton's their best player. And it has certainly hurt Coach Annette Jordan's team. It has certainly hurt them. But I like West Bloomfield's draw. Yes, it's going to be a challenge. They're going to have to go through Lakeland. Lakeland's always a tough team. But then you get to go play Wall Lake Northern, coached by Ryan Negocian. I know Tom Negocian's on his staff. So you think about that scenario, and you think about what's going on with how that district's set up. We could see West Bloomfield, Orchard Lake, St. Mary's in the district final. West Bloomfield's got home court. That always helps. Then you play Wall Lake Northern. I think it's going to be a tight game if the Lakers play the Knights. Because Negocians, but then again, the full court trap that the Negocians are most well known for, usually struggle on big courts. They usually struggle on those. So, you think about it, if Britton can come back for the district, West Bloom is a completely different team. Now, they still got defensive concerns. Don't get me wrong there. And then you have Orchard Lake St. Mary's, who's been very young all year long. They put things together. And look where they're at. Sets that up perfectly. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But I think West Bloom has got a great chance to win this district if things go right. I mean, Orchard Lake St. Mary's, I would have to say, has to be the favorite, though. They have to be the favorite. Even though this is a down year for Coach Todd Colbert's team. But this team still has to be the favorite. Then let's go to District 25. This is at Oxford. Holly takes on Oxford. Holly, the 5 seed, Oxford, the 4 seed. Winner takes on Grand Blanc. Then you have the 6 seed Lapeer Lightning take on the Hornets of Flint Kearsley. That winner takes on Davison. So I think about this district. This district's basically Grand Blanc and everybody else. Grand Blanc's the loaded team. They got a lot of experience. They're well coached. I mean, this is a dangerous team. Grand Blanc is a very dangerous team. And then you look at the first round match between Holly and Oxford. That's an upset trap for Oxford. Holly, we know, is a very good team. Coach Steve DeHart always does a nice job with his kids at Holly. Oxford's been a very interesting team all year long. They've really struggled. But they do have some playmakers. You look at Brody Casper. You look at a Brennan Elling. You look at they got a Boyle there. They got Hasselbring there. I mean, they got players. I mean, and they got one of the best coaches in the game in Coach Fed. That's going to be an interesting game. That game could go either way. But I really feel bad for the winner of that one because they're going to have to see Grand Blanc. This other side of the draw is pretty much clear cut. Kearsley and Lapeer. I've seen Lapeer play. Could they pull an upset? Maybe. They could. But they don't match up well with neither Davison nor Flint Kearsley. Davison's having a rough year. I mean, they're having a very rough year. But remember, Davison struggled a little bit last year. And they knocked up Lapeer, and then they beat Oxford to get to the district final before losing to Grand Blanc. So, you look at Davison, you got to like where they're at. And Flint Kearsley and Davison played earlier in the year. Davison survived 70-69. So, Flint Kearsley and Davison round 2, that could be interesting. Really interesting. That could be a fun one. That could be a fun one to watch. But when I look at this district still, this is going to be Grand Blanc's district to lose. Because if Grand Blanc gets upset, that's going to make headlines. Especially in the Flint area. Especially in the Flint DMA markets. Like WNM TV 5, or ABC 12, or NBC 25, Fox 66. In that area. If Grand Blanc were to get upset in the district round, that's going to make headlines. So, but when I look at the teams that could upset Grand Blanc in this district, I mean, Oxford I don't think matches up well with them at all size-wise. And then Holly I know does not match up well with Grand Blanc. Neither team really matches up well with Grand Blanc at all. And then you look at Flint Kearsley and Davison, neither team really matches up well with them at all either. So, I really don't see anybody touching Grand Blanc in that district. Next, we got District 28. This will be at Utica Eisenhower. The 5 seed, Utica Eisenhower, takes on the 4 seed, Utica. That winner takes on the number 1 seed, Rochester Falcons. Then we have the 6 seed, Romeo Bulldogs, taking on the 3 seed, Stony Creek Cougars. That winner taking on the 2nd seed, Adams Highlanders. So, I'm looking at the first side of it. I'm looking at the top side of it. Utica has had a nice year. They've had a good year. Eisenhower has been a team that's had a lot of injuries. I mean, they had a lot of injuries. The only healthy player on that team seemed like it's been Trey Richardson. And he's in a nice year. He's in a nice senior year. But for Utica Eisenhower, Coach Anthony Muscat, it's just the injury bugs have really hurt this team. You got to wonder what could have been with Ike. You got to wonder what could have been. But if everybody gets back and they're healthy, then it would not surprise me if Ike could make a run at this thing. Now, Ike played Utica earlier in the year. They lost twice to him. Utica's won 5 of the last 6. And Utica's no stranger to Rochester. Played once earlier in the year. Rochester beat them. 66-41. Rochester's played 3 teams in this district. Adams, Stony Creek, and Utica. Won all of them. But something tells me Rochester, they could get upset. They could. I mean, it's Rochester, they can no longer call themselves the Hunters. They're now the Hunted. You're 20-0. You're gonna be the Hunted. You're coming off a district championship last year on your home floor. Rod, if you're Coach Nicobola, you're right where you need to be. considering the future next year for Rochester. So you really look at this match, you look at Rochester. If it's Utica, it's a rematch. If it's Eisenhower, you're dealing with that home crowd. If it's Ike that Rochester will be playing, you know the Soldiers of Fortune will be sent upstairs. Because you look at the design of that gym, and Rochester's experienced this before, where the visiting students had to be sent upstairs. And we know that gym. Even though Ike could be wearing black, if they were to play Rochester, you know they're going to get the home bench. You know they're going to get they're going to have the home side and the scoreboard. You know what they're going to have. But first, Ike's got to get by Utica. And Utica's had their number. But it's always hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year. It always is. So that's interesting. But I can only imagine if Utica Eisenhower had to play Rochester. I mean, then you would see the Soldiers of Fortune, that's the Rochester student section, have to be sent up top. And not a good thing, honestly. Not a fun experience if you have to be there on top. Then on the flip side, you have a rematch between Romeo and Stony Creek. Stony Creek beat Romeo by 20, 65-45 for Christmas. So you think about that matchup, you got to say Stony Creek should be favored. They should be, rightfully so. You know Stony Creek wants another shot at Adams. You look at the 2 meetings they had this year. Stony Creek won at Adams, but Adams won by 1 point at Stony. I gotta give credit to where credit's due here. I gotta give credit to Coach Michael Tomich for the job he's done in his first year at Stony Creek. He's got that team believing in his system. He's got that team believing. He's found the shooter in Ernie Backos. Andy Ehringhaus has been shooting the ball lights out. Quentin Rangy's been playing very good basketball. They got point guard play. I mean, Marco's got that program hanging in the right direction. There's no doubt he's done a fantastic job. No doubt. And he's taken, the only thing I'm still trying to figure out is that Water for Mock game. But he's taken Birdman Brother Rice, Avondale, and Adams to the wire. So you think about that, and think about what they can do in the district. They could create some havoc. Could you imagine Stony Adams round 3? That could be nuts. That could be very interesting. I think that's going to happen. Romeo's been a very odd team to figure out this year. I mean, yes, they're young. They start 2 sophomores. But they've had some games where they've won. I mean, Utica Eisenhower was one they won at Eisenhower. And then they've had some games where they just haven't been in. But Romeo, could they beat Stony? I don't see it, but it can happen. It could happen. So in this district here, if Utica Eisenhower gets healthy, that could pose problems for Utica. And then that winner would play Rochester. Rochester, to me, has to be an upset alert. Because you would likely be looking at a rematch with Utica. If it's Utica Eisenhower, you're dealing with the home crowd. And then also your students will be on top. And then if it's Adams or Stony Creek, that's rematches. Those are going to be rematches. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. And then District 27, this is at Lake Orion. You got 5th seed Waterford Kettering takes on the 4th seed Lake Orion. Winner takes on Avondale. And then you have Waterford Mott versus Clarkston. I have said this for weeks. Couldn't you imagine a Lake Orion Avondale District semifinal? That could be nuts. That could be interesting. Obviously, Jacoby Lifford. That's a big storyline there because he formerly played at Lake Orion, and for him to come back and take on his former team. You look at Lake Orion. I mean, Lake Orion's had a really rough road. They've lost a lot of close games. You got 2 proven shooters in Jackson Chosky and Nate Giacalone there. Max Nearings emerged as a very solid big. Avondale's had an incredible year. Avondale, to me, looks like a state quarterfinal team. That's honesty. I mean, Aaron Fox's first year at Avondale, he's done a really good job with that team. I mean, they got players there that have done really good, really nice job over there. Beat Clarkson twice. That says a lot. I mean, Evans had Clarkson's number lately. I mean, last year, they beat him 5 straight. I mean, that's pretty unheard of. That says a lot. Got to give credit to then Coach Jared Thomas, but also the Coach Aaron Fox for the job he's doing in Auburn Hills. I mean, there's so many interesting dynamics those two teams play. I mean, I know Lake Orion's got to get by Waterford Kettering first, but those are some dynamic, interesting storylines. The coaching matchup between Coach Jose Andrade and Coach Aaron Fox, that's going to be a fun coaching matchup. That would be a fun coaching matchup. Both teams are pretty even in size. Avondale, a lot more athletic. Cohesiveness, togetherness. I know both teams have that, but I would have to give that edge to Lake Orion. When it comes to togetherness, I know Avondale's got a lot of good chemistry, but athleticism, I'm giving Avondale that advantage. So it'll be interesting. It'll be very, very interesting. I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup if those two teams were to play in the district semifinals. Then on the other side, I got Clarkston and Waterford Mott. This could be interesting. You got Tori Robinson and Damari Stevens, and Clarkston's a systematic league team. They're systematic. So I look at that matchup and I think about what Clarkston is. You just lost by 14 to Avondale. You had a 15-0 run against you in that one. But, you're a team that runs through system. And Clarkston's been that for years. They have been a systematically built team for years. I mean, even under Coach Dan Fife, they've always been a systematic program. And then Coach Tim Wasilk has continued that. So they've done a very good job of that. Following their system, and going through what they've been doing. They're a systematically built program. Waterford Mott, on the other hand, you look at what Mott, they've had some games where they've looked very good at times, but then there's some games where they just go like, what are you doing? So they don't have a lot of depth. So I would have to give an advantage to Clarkston in this matchup. I would have to say that, honestly. So, as I said, in Avondale's case, I think they're the team to watch. They should be the favorite. To me, they look like a state quarterfinal team. I think they're built for the state quarterfinals. Maybe a trip to Breslin. We'll see. My best bets to get to Breslin, obviously, I would say Avondale. Avondale, obviously, they got experience. They're athletic. They're quick. Only losses to a very good Freeland team. I think Avondale's got a great chance to get to Breslin. I would also say Ferndale, based on what they're in Division 2. So we'll see what happens. Should be a very interesting district tournament. For the boys' side. Next week we're gonna preview the girls. And we're gonna break that district tournament down as well. All right, we're gonna sign off here. Make sure you follow the blog. I said I'm gonna be 4650 at blogspot.com. Also around the OA at webley.com. Have a lot of content going around with football. Also with girls basketball. Also wrestling districts, regional, team, and individuals. We'll see what happens going forward. We're gonna sign off here. Take care. God bless, and I will see you on next play. Take care. God bless. God bless.